Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle Harris, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. As business owners and entrepreneurs, we're often so focused on hitting our goals and serving our clients that we don't realize the toll it's taking on our mental health and our energy levels. In the process of trying to create more marketing, get more clients, and grow our businesses, we start thinking it should all be happening faster. And when we look at others who seem to have it all figured out, it feels even harder. If this sounds familiar, you know how easy it is to spiral into burnout. Today, I'm talking with Nikkei Lamode, a certified life coach who helps eldest daughters redefine their relationships with their families, careers, businesses, and themselves. And yes, we're going to talk about burnout and why it happens, but we'll also dive into something even more important: how to recognize burnout in yourself, how to give yourself the time you need to heal, and how to create a life and business you truly want. As you listen to this episode, I encourage you to be honest with yourself. Are you experiencing any of these signs that we're talking about? And when you realize what things are popping up for you, take note of the powerful and simple habits that we mention all throughout this episode that can help you heal, refuel, and recommit to your goals. All right, let's dive into this important conversation with Nikkei. I am so excited to have our guest here today. She is someone who I have known for a while now, and the work that she does to help people, specifically eldest daughters, really understand and own their power back and take care of themselves is so fantastic. And I just know that so many of us, at least the people that I work with, they are high achieving and they happen to be eldest daughters, or at least they identify as the responsible one out of all of their siblings in their family. And that type of personality tends to have a business and tends to run things. And the conversation that we're going to have today is going to talk specifically about you, specifically about how you are running your business and how you can do that in a way that's not going to burn you out. So today I'd like to introduce Nikkei. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yes, thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's so great. I'm so glad that we're able to do this. If you don't mind, introduce yourself to the people, what it is that you do, and really why you're so passionate about this work.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I am Nikkei Lamode, and I'm a certified coach who helps eldest daughters create healthy relationships with other people without sacrificing their time, money, or desires. And the reason why I'm so passionate about that work is because a lot of the times those women end up being the matriarchs of the family and are the role models and set the examples for the family in a lot of different ways. But when they sacrifice their time, their money, or their desires, that can lead to compromising their health, their well-being, their mental health, and even erode some of relationships in their family, friends, co-workers, because they would spend so much time giving and giving and giving, but not giving to themselves. And so I'm very passionate about helping eldest daughters, like Danielle said, be empowered with their own power to show up for themselves as much as they do everyone else, so that they can change the trajectory of their own lives and their families' lives too.
That's so powerful. And I just want to make sure that I make it clear I self-identify because I'm the eldest daughter. I'm the oldest.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's a whole thing, especially if I have two younger brothers. Yeah, so it's just interesting. And then like on one side of the family, I'm the only girl of it, and I'm the oldest, like the oldest grandchild. I'm the oldest grandchild on like both sides of the family.
Wow.
Yeah, so eldest.
You know about it. You know about the pressure.
Yeah, so today, really I wanted to talk to Nikkei about just like her experience with burnout in particular. I know that I work with so many people who have the strong desire. They really want to grow a business, and they're high achievers. I work with a whole lot of high achievers, a lot of also, again, like eldest or just like high achieving women. And one of the things that I know that we know how to do is just like keep going at
Mm-hmm.
it, keep trying. And then we get to the point where we're just burnt out. But the goal and the thought is like, but I have to keep going, just stays there. So I really wanted to talk today about what was your journey in particular, and then what are some things that we can give to the people listening, like how they can take care of themselves and also still realize that you can hit your goals that you want to have and you can take care of yourself, but it doesn't mean that you need to just keep pushing forward.
Mm-hmm. So good. So I've had my business for 3 years now, and I do still work a full time job. And during that time, like I invested in a sales and business coach, two marketing coaches, a money coach. So I was making investments on the higher end as well as doing like lower ticket investments as well, just to help provide me with like support and knowledge and community to grow my business in the most efficient way. And so I got to a point that started in 2022 where I believe I was hitting the cusp of burnout, but was powering through because I was like, this is what I want. It's not, if I stop, it means I'm going to lose time and I'm going to have to make it up later. So let me just keep pushing through. And when I finally get the momentum I'm looking for, quote unquote, whatever income goal I hit, then I can like actually slow down. And so in 2023, it caught up to me by powering through. I started to feel really disengaged with my business. I didn't want to create content. I felt really unmotivated to work like on anything that was related to lead gen or collaborations. I wasn't showing up in any of my coaching containers, receiving coaching directly. And I was just kind of like in my own little island. And I started asking myself, like, what is the point of all of this? Like, am I really cut out to do this? I could see over the years all my peers and other programs that I was in, they were doing great in their business. They were signing clients, they were growing. It was working for them, and I was like, it's me. Like, I'm the problem. Like, should I even be doing this? And so I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to take a short break for just like 5 days to just recalibrate, recenter. Yeah, that turned into 4 months. I literally was like not posting, not creating content, not sending emails, not making a podcast for 4 months. I didn't even, the first 2 months, didn't even think about my business at all. Like, didn't think this should be on my to-do list, didn't consider it. I just felt a sense of like relief and freedom that I wasn't so centered on that anymore. And so I didn't really start to think about my business during that time until the last 2 months when I started to get this deeper desire of like, I want impact and I know that I'm really good at what I do and how I can help people. And so the only way I see that happening is through my business. And that's when I started to kind of like dream again and feel more activated in wanting to participate in having and growing a business. But in that journey, I was like, okay, well, when I come back, I need to come back with something great, something to be able to offer. And so then I dived into something even deeper, which I'll be sure to talk about a little bit later. To get myself in a place where I felt prepared to return, quote unquote, like ready and shiny for everyone to just be like, oh, she's back, even though no one probably knew that I left. But that was kind of like the journey of like my business and where I started, and then facing the burnout and realizing I'm a power through it, and then it catching up with me a year later and just needing to step back for a week, I thought, and then was gone for like 4 months.
Mm. There were so many milestone points along that story that you said, and I'd want to start at the beginning of it, the very first part. You said that you felt that you were on the cusp of burnout, that you felt it. Like, what were those things that you were doing that made it feel like it was on the cusp of burnout? Was it you were focusing a lot on your business? Was there life things? Like, what were some of the things that you were just like, oh, I think I'm burning out, just to help other people so that they can kind of self look through and diagnose, like, am I on the cusp of burnout too?
Mm.
Just so that they can kind of see, like, what were the things that indicated to you, like, oh, yep, this is coming, it's almost here.
Yeah. So what immediately came to mind was being critical of other people's wins, whether it was scrolling on TikTok or Instagram and seeing other coaches share their wins, or in the communities I was in, we would have like a wins channel. And when someone would post, oh, I got a sales call booked or a client signed, I would be so critical of why that happened for them. Like, what about me? Like, I've been putting in all this work. So being overly critical of everyone else in comparison to my place was like, that was one sign. The other one is like when I would sit down to create, it was like, oh, I have to do this again. I don't want to do this. It was from a very standpoint of like, I have to do this instead of I want to do this, instead of, wow, what does someone need to hear from me this week in order to know that, hey, there's a solution out there for you. Everything became very like a laborious chore that I just had to do. And the third thing that comes up is I felt physically exhausted. And I don't know, that may be different for other people, but I physically felt like my body just did not want to do it anymore. Like almost like a lethargy type feeling, like fatigue, just like drained. Like there was nothing in me that had the energy, focus to give to that. And so those are like three big things that I can remember feeling like I'm on the cusp of this. But yet, no, I have to push through. So pushing through the physical, pushing through the criticalness, and pushing through, I just don't want to do this, but I have to. And so now I'm just going to like lug myself to my laptop and work on creating content.
That's really interesting because it sounds like, and as someone who has also had burnout too, it's almost as if you pushing through is just like, I'm determined. It's like, I have determination. I don't quit. But at the same time, you want to quit because on some level, you're just like, what is the point? This is not working.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That is usually just like a perfect recipe of like, it's not working. I want to quit, but I don't quit. So I'm going to keep going and keep doing this thing that to me feels like is not working. So it's just like these two things that are like polar opposites just rubbing up against each other, and it's just like that's not going to win, which I think also kind of contributes to this burnout because you're just kind of fighting all the time back and forth, which comes up to that tired feeling because you literally are, you're fighting against yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love what you mentioned of like, it's not working. And I think especially if you're a very high achiever, I'm so used to being able to do the steps that are told to me to do, and I get the result that's expected. So when I'm in a situation of growing and working on a business, I'm doing what people are telling me to do, and I'm still not getting the result. Then it's like, what is happening? Like, I have to figure this out. This has to be figured out. There's no way that I can't figure it out. I've always figured things out. So it goes back. I love when you said that tension of like, I refuse to give up. I have to keep going. And yet my body's like, okay, but we're tired. Like, we can't. So yeah, that is so on point with what you shared.
Yeah, no, I high achieving eldest daughters is just like, no, like I get it the first time. What do you mean?
Exactly.
What do you mean it's not working? Okay, now I have to keep going until it does, but like it's the way I'm doing it isn't, and it's the back and forth. It always goes through. So the next point that you talked about was needing, like, let me take 5 days. And when you were thinking, you made that decision to take the 5 days, what got you to that point? Because you could have kept going and just saying, like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to keep going. What finally got you to the point where you said, okay, I'm going to take these 5 days and just decompress? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think I just don't give a F. I think I literally had hit that point. Like, it's almost like you want to keep going, but you hit a brick wall. I was at a brick wall. There was no more determination, resilience, perseverance left in me to power through the burnout. The brick wall was there and I hit it. But then there's a little bit still more of that like high achieving eldest daughter is like, well, okay, I'll just take 5 days off. Like, I'll just do a couple of days. I'm not going to like make this a long standing thing. But I just can't. I hit the brick wall and I just could not mentally, physically, emotionally get behind running through the checklist anymore just because.
I think for a lot of people, when they get to that point, as you said, after you decided that you're going to take 5 days and it ended up being 4 months, I think there are some people that are deathly afraid of those 4 months, and that they think that that might give them some more spurs, like, okay, let me keep going, keep pushing, because I don't want to take 4 months to get back.
Mm.
I want to talk about a couple things. One, like your 4 month period, and then two, what would you say to another person who is about to hit that wall, but is also afraid of taking any time off and what it might mean about them to take that time?
Mm-hmm. I do also want to say that because I went into it thinking it was just going to be 5 days, that by the time I started to feel the therapeutic effect of not having this thing consume me, I wanted more of a break. So even though there was so much resistance for a year and a half of I can't take the time, this is going to make the process longer. This is going to mean that I failed if I take time off. This is going to mean that I just couldn't do it. All of that I was fighting for a year and a half, when I got those 5 days started and I started to feel like what it felt like to not have my business consume my life, I was like, oh my God, this is nice. And I think that a part of the thing that was contributing to this is I didn't have a life outside of my business. I wasn't doing hobbies. I wasn't consistently like working out. I wasn't even spending time with friends. Like my roommate would have to literally come downstairs and say, we're going to go have dinner. It's a Friday night. Like you're not going to sit here and create content. And so I didn't have a life outside my business. So this literally consumed me. So during those 4 months, it was like realizing like, oh my gosh, like I actually do enjoy doing this, or I actually do love going to the farmer's market. I can't believe I haven't been going. And so getting back and engaged in my life was something of like, I want more of this. And so that's why the 4 months was so shocking, because I never intended to take that long. It was getting back to me as a person in my personal life that fueled this tendency to just, oh, I want to spend more time on this, like whatever break that this is. And so to the person who is so afraid to take the break, and like if you feel like it's going to make it mean you're a failure, or you're not adequate or smart enough, or you're not able to hustle as good enough as the person you see being as successful, I really want you to think about, if this business is truly like your sustainable long-term forever thing, how do you want to show up in this business in a way that's healthy for you? And if you take this business with you in different seasons of your life, whether that means you have a partner, you end up wanting to bring children into the picture, or move countries, like you have to be able to sustain healthy habits to run the business, but also have your own life. So thinking about, how do I want to show up as a business owner, not in this short time of the beginning, but throughout the sustainable whole thing? What kind of person do I want to be as a business owner and in my own life? And think more about that and less about what taking a break would mean about you as a person, because it doesn't actually mean anything. If anything, it allows for you to do like I did, re-engage back. I have a life outside of this, and it's actually quite beautiful if I would just take the time to nurture that life.
And I think that's something that a lot of people forget about, particularly the fact that so many people that I work with, they are deciding to create businesses so that they can create and have a life that they really want. And then in the process of building that, they stop doing the things that they wanted to do, or stop having the life that they wanted to have. And so they just feel and they get very disconnected from that. They're just like, oh, I wanted to have this freedom. I wanted to be able to choose. I wanted to be able to do all these things. I know for me, in my experience, like I said that, oh, I don't want to have to wake up at a certain time in order to start and run my business and make a living. And then I got into a habit of thinking like, oh, okay, well, like I'm not as girl bossy as the other people because like I'm now waking up at this time and I don't have this perfect routine and I'm not doing all of these things. And she's like, but I specifically left and I did all of no, I decided to run my business so that I didn't have to do those things. Like that was something that I desired to have. And to your point of like being able to say like, okay, yeah, I can pick up and go and see a family on the other side of the country, or I can go and hang out with friends at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
Like that's the type of life we want to live. And if you're not being intentional about doing that as you're growing your business, then you're never actually going to have that because it was never designed that way in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I think that's such a great reminder that you need to have this balance and that it is possible to have both. And I think it's really for you, what I'm hearing from you is that you needed to really tap back into that for yourself until you can get to what we'll talk about next is like going after that 4-month period, like bring that business back inside because I know I'll speak for myself. I'm always like, I don't want to burn out. My biggest fear is like, I don't want to burn out again because I have burned out before. I burned out multiple times. And so my default is if I don't do that much, then I won't burn out. But then if you're not doing anything at all, then you're not actually going to grow. And so like talk to me a little bit as how you're like living and able to have this life and how you're integrating business back into what it is that you're doing. How are you creating healthy boundaries for you, and how are you staying on top of thinking like, okay, or do you have the fears? So do you have the fears of burning out again and taking those long breaks? Like what are those things that are coming up for you?
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that because I still have to have because what I wasn't doing before, I wasn't checking in with myself regularly before I burned out. And now I am. I start to notice when I get irritated if I don't get a certain result. Maybe I'm trying a new form of content or a different platform and it's been a certain amount of days and then all of a sudden I'm not getting a result and I start to get really frustrated again. Because I'm now making a practice of self-coaching and checking in, I'm like, wait a minute, we've been here before, remember? And I have to coach myself through that. And so that has been really helpful, right? Making sure that I'm checking in with myself regularly. And then also I have been trying to focus on my financial goals that aren't dependent on the success of my business, which is taking a huge pressure off of the life pressures that I was putting on my business. And so by diverting my efforts and attention to my financial goals that aren't dependent on my business has actually created more room for creativity for me to actually enjoy being in my business. And then another thing is making sure that I'm showing up for coaching, even though I don't feel like it. And even if it's not coaching related to business things, it may be how I'm feeling or whatever. That coaching helps me to process through things and not allow for that emotion to get bigger and bigger and just consume me. But instead of for me to like process through it, feel it, and it dissipate and I move on. So really showing up for coaching when I don't feel like it in different programs that I'm in. And I think honestly, one of the things I realized when I was in that 4 months of burnout is that I tended to micro quit in my business and really treat it like a hobby and not like a business. And I think that now I'm honest with myself. Like, hey, I mean, you did put out content, but was it content that really communicated to your ideal client that you can solve a problem, or was it content you just put out because it was the easiest thing to do? And so now I'm more honest with myself and holding myself accountable, not from a shaming standpoint, but just saying, hey, if we're going to do this and put the time, like, let's ensure we're being intentional about what we're doing and why. And I feel like even holding myself to that kind of standard allows for me to use the time I do give to my business a lot more wisely. So I'm not spending all this extra time on my business when I was just tinkering around in like software or something, which helps me to feel like I'm living a life outside of my business. And so those are some of the things that I do now to circumvent getting in the burnout cycle again. And I feel like it helps me to make sure I feel and I starve off the need to want to power through something that comes up like, oh, this isn't working, or oh my gosh, did I do this wrong? It's like, we don't need to power through, process it, identify this is experiment, and let's move on and try something new. And so it's been so much more helpful like this time around.
No, that's so huge. I know that a lot of times it's the marketing piece for people that causes the burnout. It's the,
Yes.
I'm trying this, I'm on this new platform, this isn't working, I'm not getting the views that I want, and truly, like, I'm trying to figure out what is going to work, and
Mm-hmm.
that creates the burnout, specifically, like you said earlier, the comparison portion of it. And marketing is a lot of testing. It truly
Mm.
is. It's once starting off at the beginning, doing your research, understanding who your people are, and then is testing and experimenting.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of it, you know, we want exact results. The second that we post something out, it's just like, I want something to happen. I want something to move
Yeah.
right away with things. And that can quickly contribute, especially if you are coming from a place of, all right, this has to work. I have to achieve. I like it has to work right away because you're making it mean something about you. You're making it mean like I'm not good enough. If I were good enough, it would have worked right off the bat, or it would have worked quickly, or all of these other things that,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it could very much attribute to the feelings of burnout. And the clients that I've had that really have they've been in the burnout state and have gotten out of it are the people that have been able to see what some of their wins are, what things were working.
Mm.
So I want to ask you then, are there things that as you've gone through this process, as you've come out of the other side and being able to see like I'm going to live my life, I'm going to incorporate things and that bring me joy, so that I can actually have a life outside of my business. What are some of the things that help you to see what things are working when you are putting things out there, when you are deciding like, okay, I'm going to be on another platform, I'm going to be over here, I'm going to be over there, so that you don't contribute to burnout
Mm-hmm.
again. You talked about the self coaching that you do, you talk about getting coaching yourself. What are some other things that you're doing to just show yourself that you are making progress?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked this because this time around, I, and this is why I say being honest with myself was so important because I started to notice I was getting like frustrated. Like you said, oh, I did this. Where's my quick win after 14 days, which is a joke. Like, you need more time. But I said, you know what? You are making wins. I want you to start writing them down. So I started writing them down. Oh, wow, that post got 15 saves today. Or wow, two people commented on this and they had a question. Or wow, I got to do 3 collaborations this week with different niches and different industries. And when I started to do that, it actually started to make me see, like, oh, I am like doing something. I am making progress. I am planting seeds in different places, and some of those seeds are growing. And I think that that helped me to kind of relax my shoulders a little bit and be able to lean in and be like, oh, okay, we'll just take another step tomorrow and then another step after. So I have started writing down my wins, no matter how insignificant or small my ego wants to make it seem, I write it down anyway. You know, like you reaching out on the DMs, I counted this as a win. Like, oh my gosh, another collaboration. Like, I'm so excited. I'm honored. Like, this is so amazing. This is a win. And I feel like that has helped me to celebrate along the way instead of withholding anything good, like in terms of positivity, until my own desired expected result, like a sales call booked or a client signed. Um, and so, yeah, that has been a huge game changer for
Mm-hmm.
me, documenting my wins.
That's amazing. I know that something that even I'm working on right now is not underestimating the things that I have already done and accomplished, and that's something that I always
Mm.
see a lot with the people that I work with, is that they'll tell me like, well, I only did this, and it'd be something that would in fact be huge, but it's not in their heads like, well, I don't have this one particular outcome at the end of the day. And so I remember there was this time where I was looking at, okay, I wanted to hit a certain income goal, but I was limiting it to like, I thought that I needed to get it only from one particular area, and anything that wasn't that, then it wasn't a win.
Yeah.
Until I switched my mindset of like, this money can get at me any type of way that it wants to. And if it takes from like, oh, actually something that's a little bit outside of what you offer traditionally, like bring it on. We can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking about like how can you have wins that are not just one singular narrow scope. Like if you think about like a funnel and it's just like a little straw of a funnel. It's just like you got to be so exact precise just to get the little thing down the little straw.
Yep.
Versus just like big huge funnel, and you're just like you have this huge shot of being able to collect all of these different types of wins that you could potentially collect. And that the more that you have, like the more you'll get more wins that are just like quote unquote small. You also get huge wins because you just have more opportunity for it to come at you. And I think what you said is it's great of being able to write it down, of just you noticing and realizing like all the different types that there are. And I think for a lot of people, they want to see like, well, I don't have any momentum. And it's because they're not looking at or writing down all the things that they're doing. So they don't realize the momentum that they already have. So I think that what you just said there is huge. You need to be able to realize and recognize all the things that you have done. And then what that's going to do is once things start working, you've already written down all the things that you've done so that you can go back and say like, oh, okay, here are the things that I did before, so I can go back and do it again.
That's true.
But if you're not doing that, then something's going to work and you're just going to be like, I don't even know how I did this. And then you're going to be in self-defeat because you're just like, see, and I can't even do this again because I don't even know what I did. See, it's impossible to do it. Versus just like, look at what I just did. Oh, I already know here are all the things that I did during this time. So let me keep doing that. Like you're just creating this cycle of possibility of what it is that you can do, as opposed to leaning on the negative and saying like, I don't even, like, yes, I hit my goal, but like, dang it, I don't know how I'm going to do it again. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just in this self-defeated mode. And so I love what you were able to say about that in that process.
It's so good. And I think it's like creating evidence for myself to go back to, because I don't have the business that I desire yet. I think at any income level, you still want to go to the next level. And so where I'm at, I don't have the business that I want yet. And so there are days where I'm like, is this really working? And I need to go back to those wins I documented to remind myself of the evidence that, oh yeah, I am having wins. Okay. So it acts as like feeding your doubt, but also giving you proof of a success recipe when like something does happen and you like you said, you have that to go back to. So it works on so many different levels as a benefit, writing down your wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at something before, and I think that a lot of times we think that because we don't have the business that we want, that's proof that we can't have the business that we want. And so, yeah, we think that because we don't currently have the business that we want, that we can never have that. And if you're thinking along those lines, then you won't create the business that you want because you're already thinking, yes, you can't have it. Versus when you come in thinking that this is something that I can do, and you start taking and doing all the moves as someone who can do that. I know that there's strategy behind that, and when you approach the strategy of just like, okay, I'm going to go and do this, and there's a difference between approaching a strategy and say, okay, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to do this, and you do all the steps and go at it with gumption, and then you decide like, oh, that didn't work, but I'm still the person who is going to make this type of business happen. And so you just try a different strategy, or you tweak it a little bit versus saying, I did this strategy and it sucked, and so I suck. There's a difference of just being able to really go through and decide like, here are my wins, here is the type of business that I want to have, and I believe that I can have this type of business, and reinforcing all the wins that are showing that, hey, I'm working towards this business that I want to have.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much power in there. And the burnout typically comes when you're comparing. It's like, oh, well, this other person, they're
Yep.
already at this place. Or, man, they started after I did. Like, why are they doing this faster than me? Like, they're not that smart. Like, I've literally had to, so I was like, they are not smarter than me. How
Yeah.
are they doing this?
Yeah.
Like it's I got more degrees than them. I've got more of this, more of that. I've been in it
Mm-hmm.
longer. I've done it professionally. What are they doing? And when you start having those types of things, that type of comparison, then you're gonna burn yourself out.
Yeah. It's so real. I also want to encourage people to, if you are in this place where you're doing the things and you don't feel like your business is growing, like, please don't be afraid to ask for help, seek someone who is more specialized in an area. Like, I hired marketing coaches because I wanted to know where are my blind spots that I'm not getting. I didn't go to school for marketing. I wanted to coach, and I'm really good at that. But I have to do marketing in order to generate leads and for people to find me and know that I exist. And so don't be afraid to utilize resources and ask for help so that you're not trying to see your blind spots and drive at the same time. Like, just relinquish some of that to another person, and I swear to you, it, like, the support feels so much better navigating when you have someone there that's specialized in that area that you're really needing the help in.
Amen to that. Get the help that you need. Because there are times where you just need somebody else to point out something to you
Mm-hmm.
that to them, to anybody else, it's like, oh yeah, that's obvious. And you're just like, oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That I did not realize that was a thing. Like that's what an outside perspective can do, can provide for you. So yes, I'm so glad that you pointed that out. So as we wrap up this conversation, for someone who I have two parts that I want to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is they feel themselves approaching that wall of burnout. What is it that you want to say to that person during this time?
I really want to say, if you are approaching the wall of burnout, it's like twofold. Part of me wants to encourage you that you don't have to earn your rest. And then the other part of it is, don't let a sense of false urgency lead you to compromise your health, your mental well-being, your quality of life. And what I mean by a false sense of urgency is, like, we can believe that we have the deadline of this year to reach this milestone, but in all actuality, do we really? We have as much time. And so stepping and leaning more into, okay, I have as much time to make this business reach this milestone, which means I can take a second to go and do this workout class, or I can take the time to go and have my therapy sessions every week. So depending on where you wrestle with, either reminding yourself you don't have to earn your rest, or reminding yourself that don't let the false sense of urgency lead you to compromise your health, mental health, and well-being.
Mm-hmm. And then for the person who they realize, like, okay, I burned out. I have stopped being in my business for months now at this point. I'm ready to come out, but I'm scared that I'm going to end up in the same place.
Mm.
What do you want to say to that person?
Oh, that person, I would love for you to ask yourself, how did I get here? Was it having unrealistic expectations? Was it trying to produce a whole bunch of productivity in a short amount of time? Was it me trying to look at other people's timelines and mimic that, even though my business model is different or my customer journey may be different from theirs? Or was I not investing in my own real life with my friendships or hobbies or going to that cooking class? So really asking yourself, how did I get here this first time, and being really honest. And then asking myself, okay, how do I want to set up a system, a routine, or something that allows for me to not end up back here again? So if you answer that question honestly, you realize, oh, I was trying to mimic that coach's style because it seemed like it was working for her, then now you're like, oh, I need to find what works for me and my business model and my ideal client's customer journey and do that. And this is how I'm going to prevent myself from getting back to where I was again. So really being honest and setting in some kind of system to help you not get back there again.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like really just being honest and checking with yourself. I think that one of the biggest things that people are afraid to do is to be honest. And I
Yeah.
think there's just a lot of ego there. There's
Mm.
a lot of saying like, oh, well, that's not really me, or I'm not that type of person, or even if it's like even more subtle, it just, there's a lot of ego that gets in the way and prevents a lot of things from happening, which I think really also attributes to a lot of the burnout
Yeah.
of like, well, I should be able to. I I've done this before, or I've known how to do these types of things. I should be able to keep going. I should be able to keep going through. I shouldn't have to experience this type of thing. But the moment that you are able to be real and honest with yourself, I've seen that um, for me and in my burnout journey. The
Mm.
moment that I was able to, like, I literally wrote down in my journal like all the different things that I wanted and decided like, okay, this is something I don't want to do again. I'm going to stop doing this, or this
Mm.
is something that I'm going to start doing. It didn't necessarily have to take all of this time because I remember I was the same. I burned out and I was like going through my 9 to 5 job like on autopilot for like again like for same like you like for 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realized like I don't want to go back there again, and so I list similar to you like here are the things that I don't want to do. This is I don't want to work during this type of time period. I want to have like nice time off. And so I was so bold. I told my boss like I'm not coming in starting December 6th or something like that.
Oh,
You
wow.
won't see me for the rest of the year. So either I could take some unpaid time off or you can let me work from home, but like I'm not coming in. And then just they were just like, oh, okay. Like going forward and just like seeing like these are the things that I need to be able
Yep.
to take care of myself, and noticing all of the things that attributed to that happening. Um, for like I said, for me personally, like that's my biggest thing. I don't want to go back to burnout. And so
Mm.
it gets me to the point where I don't want to necessarily quote unquote work hard to get to where I want to go, because in my head working harder to do it means that it's going to put me closer to getting burnout. And so I
Mm.
like that's my cycle on the other side of having experienced burnout before, is that I don't want to experience it again. And so I slow myself down so that I don't have to get to the point. So it's just like, well, if you're always kind of resting and like doing these other things, then you're not going to burn out. Then I'm also like not actively pursuing my goals
Mm.
to the degree and the extent that I want to, because like I'm so afraid of that. And so being able to really see like no, like that, like I over course corrected
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so coming up with like that nice medium of like here are the things like what too low, too much rest looks like and how that doesn't get you someplace. And you also know what too high is
Mm-hmm.
like. And so being able to see and realize for yourself, like, okay, this is where I need to operate. That's going to get you like the best results. You're going to really tap into your eldest daughter high achiever energy of like able to move and get things done, but you're also at the same time able to recognize and realize like, oh, I do need rest. I need to put that in. Oh, I do need to hit this level of things to make sure that I'm hitting the goals that I want to do. Like you can achieve all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to put that out there as like the flip side, which is like, okay, like I did too much work. And then there is also the other side of like, and now I'm a sloth.
No, I love that. I love that. It's like, let's not be radical in either direction.
Yeah, yeah, because like that is a true thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank you so much for this great conversation. I think that especially the people that are trying to like make the marketing work for their own businesses, this audience, I think understanding and realizing that burnout can be a part of it, but also that with the right support, we're talking with the right people, and then really taking care of yourself and understanding your needs, you can make it from the other side, and you can start creating things with a really healthy mindset, as you approach and start to grow your business the way that you want to. So thank you so much for sharing that experience with us.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for just even letting me share my story and share that experience. And I hope that it's an encouragement to anyone where, no matter where they are in their own business journey, and if they are facing burnout or coming out of burnout, I hope it's an encouragement to them.
Yeah. So let the people know, how can they get in contact with you? How can they learn more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, if you are over on Instagram, I'm there, Nikkei_Lamode. And if you dabble on TikTok, I'm also there at Eldest Daughter Help Desk. I would love to talk to you. If anything in this episode resonated with you, don't hesitate to DM me. And yeah, I love having conversations with people. Don't be afraid if I send you a voice note. I'm a voice message girly.
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. All of that information will be in the show notes. Make sure that you go and you follow her and connect with her. She's amazing. She does such fantastic work. So make sure that you go and connect with her. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.